So Yaakov ran away from Esav because Esav wanted to kill him because he took all the blessings away from him. He ran away to his family in Haran, and he worked for Leah and Rachel for 7 years each, and then 6 more years for the sheep and all the other produce. And then he goes back after 20 years in Haran. Yaakov is going back and he's about to meet Esav, his brother. But before he meets Esav, he has this whole fight with the angel of Esav, if everybody remembers. So this is where we're going to start at source number 1. Vayivater Yaakov levado, and Yaakov remained by himself. V'ya'avek ish imo ad arot hashachar, and a man fought with him until dawn. Vayar ki lo yachol lo, and that man saw that he's not able to win. Vayiga bechaf yerecho, and he touched Yaakov's hip. Vateka kaf yerecho, yerech Yaakov, and it got dislocated be'ev koimo during the fight. Vayomer, but still they're still fighting. So the angel says, Vayomer shalcheni ki ala shachar. It says, please let me go because dawn has came up and I need to praise God at dawn. Vayomer lo ashalechecha ki im bechatani. He said to him, I'm not going to send you unless you bless me. Vayomer elav ma shmecha. So the angel asked him, what is your name? Vayomer Yaakov. So he said, my name is Yaakov. Vayomer lo Yaakov yamer od shimcha ki im Israel. It says, your name is not going to be called anymore Yaakov. From now on, it's going to be called Israel. Ki sarita im Elokim v'im anashim v'tocham. Because you fought with angels and with people, and you were able. Vayish'al Yaakov vayomer hagida nashmecha. So then Yaakov asked the angel, tell me now, what's your name? Vayomer lama ze tishal leshmi. So the angel tells him, why are you asking for my name? Vayevarech oto sham. And the angel blessed him over there. Vayikra Yaakov shem hamakom Pniel. Yaakov called the name of the place the face of God. Ki ra'iti Elokim panim el panim. Because that's where he saw God face to face. Vatinatzel nafshi. And his soul was saved. Vayizrach lo hashemesh ka'avar avar et Pnuel. And the sun rose just like as soon as he passed Penuel. Vehu tzoleh ale yerecho. And he is limping. Al ken lo yochlu bnei Yisrael et gid hanasheh asher kaf hayarech ad hayom hazeh. And this is why, until today, we do not eat the gid hanasheh. In English?
Is it sciatic?
The sciatic nerve, that's right. The sciatic part of the animal, the left, we don't eat. Ki naga bechaf yarech Yaakov begid hanasheh. Because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip and displaced the tendons. Okay. This is pretty much from the Parsha. I'm going to read an explanation of Rabbi Adin Even Israel about this. We're just going to read it quickly in English, and then we're going to go deeper into that explanation. So, the explanation is in English. I'm just going to read it. Finally, after the entire camp has crossed the Jordan, Jacob remained alone on the riverbank there. A mysterious and anonymous man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. The man saw that he could not overpower Jacob and struck him on the socket of his hip, dislocating it. Despite the severe pain, Jacob stood firm and was not defeated. Continuing on page 2. The two remained locked together until the man said, release me, for dawn is breaking. He revealed himself as a nocturnal being, as an angel, not a human attacker, but a supernatural entity. So Jacob replied, I will not release you until you bless me. He thought neither an apology nor surrender, but demanded acknowledgement and acceptance of his authority. The blessing would signify the stranger's reconciliation with Jacob and willingness to act on his behalf. In other words, from now on you work for me. One of those things. The man identified as an angel asked Jacob, what is your name? Jacob replied, Jacob. In a typical human exchange, Jacob might have asked, if you don't know who I am, why did you attack me? What kind of question is this? However, this was no ordinary conversation, but a ceremonial event. The angel asked Jacob's name to address it in the blessing. The angel declared, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have wrestled with an angel. Isra means to wrestle, Kel means an angel. Supreme force and with men, and you have prevailed. Jacob then asked, please tell me your name. His question was likely not out of a simple curiosity, but to understand the essence and significance of that encounter. Was this figure a representative of Esau's spirit, a test, a genuine threat from the forces of darkness? So the angel responded, why do you ask my name? You don't need to know. And he then blessed Jacob right where they stood. Jacob named the place Peniel, saying, I have seen an angel face to face, and yet my soul was saved. Some who saw angels feared for their lives. But Jacob not only saw one, but engaged him face to face, and as we see, he emerged alive. The angel departed as dawn broke. As Jacob crossed Penuel, the sun rose for him. The encounter with the angel and his injury undoubtedly shook him, and he limped on the hip. This led to a halachic note. Therefore, the children of Israel do not eat the sciatic tendon, which is in the socket of the hip, to this day, because the angel struck Jacob's hip socket at the sciatic tendon. This nerve or tendon extends from the upper part of the thigh to the heel. Jacob's injury led to the prohibition of eating this tendon in animals, a commanded binding upon his descendants for all generations. So we're going to go into deep understanding of what was going on over here in this story. Let's look at source number 2. This is from Sefer Chinuch, Book of Jewish Laws, and we look at the mitzvah. Mitzvah Gimel, the third mitzvah over there, talks about lo le'echol et gid nasha, not to eat the, how do you call it over there?
Sciatic nerve.
The sciatic nerve. And over there it gives an explanation. Why don't we eat it? What's the big deal? So it says, misharshei mitzvah zo, as from the roots of this commandment, kedei shetiye remez leIsrael. We do it to remember something. There's a hint for us about something. שאף על פי שיסבלו צרות רבות בגליות מיד העמים, that even though the Jewish nation throughout the Jewish history is going to go into many troubles by the hand of the nations, ומייד בני עשיו, specifically from the sons of Esau, שיהיו בטוחים שלא יאבדו. The reason why we read the sciatic nerves, because no matter how bad it is, we have to remember that we're going to survive in the end.
I'm okay, but I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's okay.
I didn't interrupt the class,
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's perfectly fine. אלא לעולם יעמוד זרם. It is a promise that the Jewish people are going to survive forever. ויבוא להם גואל, that the Mashiach is going to come, ויגאלה מיד צר, and in the end they're going to be saved from the enemy. ובזכרם תמיד עניין זה על יד המצווה, שתהיה לזכרון. How they're going to remember this commandment? By not eating the gid and nasha, it will remind them what their forefather Yaakov went through, just like he survived a fight with the angel of Esau. So we're going to survive all these troubles. יעמדו באמונתם ובצדקתם לעולם. So we're always going to stand forever. ורמז זה הוא לפי שאותו מלאך שנלחם עם יעקב אבינו, and that angel that was sent to fight with Jacob, שבא בקבלה שהיה שרו של עשיו. We know he was the angel of Esau. רצה לעקרו ליעקב מן העולם. He wanted to completely destroy Yaakov, to remove him from the world. Who וזרעו, who, not just Yaakov, the entire Jewish nation. He didn't want the entire Jewish nation to survive. In other words, the fight between Jacob and Esau wanted that the continuation of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Avraham and Yitzchak would be him. It says, just like Yaakov is a continuation of Avraham and Yitzchak, I want to be the continuation of them. My way, not Jacob's way. Velo yacholo, but he found out that no matter how much he tried, he's not going to be able to. If you remember a little bit of the Tanya that we once learned, Jacob and Esau is a fight between the godly soul and the animal soul. Yeah, the animal soul says, I exist. That it doesn't say God exists. Every time we wake up in the morning, every morning, we don't have a feeling that God exists. We have a feeling that I exist. This is Esau's agent. I exist. If God exists, we'll debate it. So what did he do? This angel that wanted to completely take over the Jewish body, or to completely take over the world, he figured out that he's not going to win against Jacob and his descendants. He tried to, and he saw he's never going to. So he says, if I can't win against him completely, let him at least injure him. ותציערו בנגיעת הירך, at least injure him by dislocating his hip. וכן זרע עשיו מצער לזרע יעקב, and this is the offspring of Esau are going to, if they cannot destroy you, at least we're going to injure you. But לבסוף תהיה להם ישועה מהם. In the end, we're going to have salvation from the sons of Esau. כמו שמצינו באב, שזרחה לו השמש, just like we found in Jacob, that the sun rose for him, and it says it rose for him. What does it mean it rose for him? It rose in order to heal him. That's what it means it rose for him. ונושע מן הצער, and he had no more pain. כן יזרח לנו השמש של משיח. This is how the sun of Mashiach is going to shine upon us. וירפאנו מצערנו, is going to heal us from our sufferings. ויגלנו, amen במהרה. May it be speedily in our days. We are...
Thank you, because all the classes I've had, I never knew who the angel was. Now I know. Thank you.
So there's a whole question by Nachmanides when it says "Vayar ki lo yacholo," and the angel saw that he will not be able to win the fight. So he started fighting with the hope he's going to kill Yaakov. And then he realized, I'm not going to be able to win this fight. Vayar ki lo yacholo. So it says, Malachav giburei koach osei dvaro, ve'al ken lo yacholo hamalach la'aziko. It says, what does it mean he's not able to? He's an angel. Jacob is man. It's like us, it's like saying, the power of the sun cannot kill men. What do you mean? It's the sun. Radiation, heat, it can kill men. An angel has infinite power. What do you mean it cannot kill him? So it says, it's not that it cannot. Obviously it can. Wasn't allowed to. God stopped him. God, he started to try to eliminate him, but he wasn't allowed to. He was stopped by God. Ki lo hursha. God did not permit him to kill Yaakov. רק במה שעשה עמו להכה כף ירכו. He only told him, you know what you're allowed to do? You're allowed to dislocate his hip. That's it. No more than that. And we have to understand what is going on over here. ואמרו בבראשית רבה. They said in בראשית רבה, נגע בכל הצדיקים שעתידים להיות ממנו. So he says, he didn't touch just Jacob. He touched all the righteous people that are going to come from Jacob. זה דורו של שמד. This is the generations of persecution. The generation of persecution. והעניין כי המאורע כולו, over here, this entire story that we just read, רמז לדורותיו שיהיה בזרעו של יעקב. this is a hint to all the offsprings of Jacob that they should know, התגבר עשיו עליהם עד שיהיה קרוב לקעקע ביצתן. He told them that Esav is going to become powerful and he's going to be about to destroy you completely. והיה זה דור אחד בימי חכמי המשנה כדור של רבי יהודה בן בבא וחבריו. And that generation only happened once. By the way, since Jacob. We think it happened throughout the Jewish history. It says no. It happened once. That generation happened once during the times of the Mishnah, like the generation of Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba and his friends. And I'll explain what's the difference between all of history and that history. The difference is like this. כמו שאמרו, like they said in the Song of Songs, Amar Rabbi Chia Barabba. It says this is a regular Jewish history. So Rabbi Chia Barabba says, you know how it is in a regular Jewish history? אם יאמר לי אדם תן נפשך לקדושת שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא אני נותן. In regular Jewish history, if a person comes over to me and he tells me, die for God, no problem. Throughout Jewish history, put me wherever you want in Jewish history. An enemy, Esav, is going to come over to me and he says, die. If not, for Judaism, says, I'm willing to die for Judaism, no problem. Except one generation. The generation of Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba, I'm not sure I will be able to accept that punishment. Any other punishment for me, it's not a problem. But not that generation. Why? ובלבד שיהרגוני מיד. Because it says in all other generations, we know there wasn't the trial of we're going to torture you. There wasn't a trial of torturing. It's either you accept Jesus or whatever it is, or we'll kill you. Jews did not accept Jesus, so what did they do? They killed them. It was simple. It's easy. But in that generation, that was not the test. In that generation was either you accept the idol worship, or we're going to torture you. And we're going to torture you for days on end. We're going to continue to torture you. We're going to continue to torture you. He says, that I don't know if I can stand. That generation. What went through in that generation. אבל בדורו של שמד איני יכול לסבול. But in the generation that he describes in the days of the Mishnah, that I don't know if I can contain, if I can pass this test. ומה היו עושים בדורו של שמד? What did they used to do in that generation? היו מביאים כדוריות של ברזל. They used to bring metal balls ומלבנים אותן באור. They used to hit them in the fire ונותנים אותם תחת שחייהם ומסיעים נפשותיהם מהם. And they would put these small little balls under the people until they would change their mind. Yeah, you don't change your mind, no problem. We'll do that every day, a couple of times a day, until you change your mind. Yeah, let's see who's stronger, you or us. ויש דורות אחרים שעשו עמנו כזה ויותר מזה. And you should know that in other generations, just like in this generation, in that generations, by the way, this is the generation we read on Yom Kippur. The 10 murders of Yom Kippur was during that generation. And it says, and it is minor, but that was the whole generation. Through our generation, it happened to certain individuals. The same thing, the same tortures happened to certain individuals.
Here, at that time?
Throughout Jewish history. And that's what we're going to be discussing. Just like it happened by them to the whole generation, throughout Jewish history, it also happened. Maybe not to the entire generation, the entire people who lived them, but specific individuals it happened to. והכל סבלו ועבר עלינו, and we suffered through all of this, and we passed it, כמו שרמז ויבוא יעקב שלם. And we passed all these tortures, just like it says in the end of the story, that Yaakov came completely healed from all the injuries that he fought with the angel.
So the difference between this generation and the other generations where they survived, this generation they attacked everybody, all of the people.
That's right. Not just in individual groups. The entire generation, that was their trial.
And what was the outcome? Because it says here in other generations, but they came through.
Yeah, also in that generation they came through.
Okay.
But the type of torture in the other generations was usually a quick. Either you accept the idol worship or we kill you. In that generation, it wasn't either you accept or we kill you. It's either you accept or we'll make you suffer a couple of months until you accept. And that he said, I don't know if I would pass the test. All the other generations are meant to pass the test. This test, I don't know if I can go a couple of months through torture and to do that. Okay. The Rebbe is talking to us now. I think it was, Hani will probably know better, about the Tsar. 1812 was the cantonist decree. 1812 sounds correct? The Tsar?
I'm not sure.
I think it was around 1812. Around 1812 in Russia, there was a terrible decree. Now, most people don't even aware of how terrible the decree was. What the idea was is the Russian Tsar wanted to make sure there's not going to be more Jews, pretty much. He wanted to convert all Jews to Christianity. But the Jews were always, throughout Jewish history, if you read a little bit, yeah, the Jews were very strong in their faith throughout the history. And he realized that he's not going to be able to turn Jews to convert. So what did he do? He made a decree, and the decree was like this. He's going to take boys, young boys, to army camps. Usually it will be from the age of 12, but later on they went already down to the age of 8. Yeah? And you will have to go to the army, not like in Israel where you go for 3 years. You'll have to go to the army for 35 years. Wow. So from the age of 12, officially, but later on it turned into the age of 8, the young boys will have to go to the army for 35 years. And those young boys were put into specific camps, and those camps were not there for them to go to the army. That wasn't the idea. The idea was to take them from Jewish influence. You know, you take an 8-year-old from his parents, from his community, and you raise him up in an army atmosphere that you decide, the general decide what the atmosphere, no kosher food, no holidays, no nothing, no teachers, and that's it. By the end of the 35 years, you know what's going to happen to him. He's not going to know anything about his Judaism. And that's what happened. But the way they did it was really, he likes this word, diabolical. It says, how did they do it? They used to come to the rabbi of the town, and they used to tell the rabbi of the town, look, you've got in your town around, 3,000 young men, right? I want 2,500 young men to come to the army. You choose. Your choice. You choose who's going to come and who's not going to come. So what started happening in the within the Jewish communities throughout Russia at the time, the Jews themselves used to snatch kids, kidnap kids of the poor. Usually, who did we kidnap? The poor kids. They would go around. There would be like gangs of Jewish people. They would go around and kidnap other Jewish kids and give it to the army instead of their kids. So they caused that within the Jewish communities, the Jews themselves started fighting and kidnapping other people's kids. So as long as they have, I'm going to have the quota of how many kids I need to give to the army so that my family will not need to send my kids over. It became a terrible decree because you knew the kid leaves, he's never coming back. Those people, those cantonists they were called, that went to the army, you hear many heroic stories about them. That no matter what, some of them would refuse to eat non-kosher food and they died of starvation. Other ones, when they tried to baptize them in the rivers, they would swim into the river deep inside and they drowned themselves. You hear so many stories about these kids that they didn't want to convert, but they were converted there. And those who survived, after 35 years, they didn't have much. Even after they returned to Jewish life, to Jewish communities after 35 years, they didn't know anything about Judaism. These were called the cantonists. So, we're going to learn, what was such a person that went through this kind of 35 years, what does the Torah expect him after 35 years of living such a life and coming back to Judaism? What does the Torah expect of him to behave? So let's see. We're on page number 5. בשנותיו האחרונות של אדמו"ר האמצעי, in the last years of the Mittler Rebbe, that today he is his...
Yortzei and birthday.
התחילה כבר הגזרה של חטיפת היהודים לצבא. The decree of taking the Jewish children to the army already started. And that's later than 1812? It started in 1812, but when was the Mittler Rebbe?
When was he born?
Yeah.
When was he born?
When did he die?
Years was he there? 1827.
It's 1827, right? It's under
Born
18.
in 1827?
He died in 1827.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was around that time, 1827. Yeah. And if you see, it says חטיפת הילדים לצבא. It was the kidnapping of the children to the army. Why was it kidnapping? The Jews themselves used to kidnap them. Because they knew if you don't give enough quota of kids to the army, if you're not going to take, they're going to take our kids. There were terrible stories that you hear, moms running after the things. It was a terrible thing. ובעניין זה ישנו מאמר מהאדמו"ר האמצעי. By the way, this is part of the reason why he passed away. The Mittler Rebbe passed away because of the decree. It was so painful to him what's happening that he couldn't take it anymore. דיבור המתחיל להבין עניין לקיחת אנשי חיל מישראל ביד נוכרים. And he actually brought a discourse about this whole situation.
Yeah, but the thing is, it says here seizing Jews by non-Jews.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, that's to be politically correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It was they did exactly what was done in Egypt. The guys who used to be responsible for the Jews, for the quota, were Jews. In other words, the Jews were put responsible to the Jews. So
And Germany too with the
exactly the same idea was done over there. He says, your problem, we have a quota, you fulfill it. Your community fulfill it, you come up with a solution. Not our problem.
If the Jews didn't give them up, then the non-Jews did kidnap them.
Yeah. Not kidnap them, just came and took them. You don't need to kidnap.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
sometimes they just walked by the street and took the kids with them and didn't discuss with them.
Yeah. ושם מבאר, over there in the discourse he explains, שאף שאין ביכולתם לקיים מצוות רבות. He says, look at these people. He says, they're now the age of 40, 50. They finished the army. They're not capable of doing many commandments. Why? Because they don't know anything about Judaism. They live within their own communities. They made cities specifically for them. And they didn't go out of their environment. They stayed within those army groups. היוקר שיש למעלה מאותן מצוות מועטות שהם מקיימים מסירות נפש. But it says, the Mittler Rebbe says, look at how dear those commandments that they do keep, look how dear they are. You know what? I'll tell you a story. There was once a famous rabbi who went in Ukraine, and this was just before Yom Kippur. He was going from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. So he went and he got stuck. It was the weather, Russia, you can imagine. He got stuck, and he got stuck into one of those villages where you had cantonists on Yom Kippur. So for Yom Kippur, he got stuck within the village. Now, people were very happy because they don't know anybody who ever learned Torah over there. None of them know how to read or write Hebrew. And all of a sudden, a big rabbi comes and he can run the shul. So they tell the rabbi, excellent, they're so happy, they're celebrating the fact that they're going to have on Yom Kippur a big rabbi with them. So they tell the rabbi, we would love if you're going to be our chazan for Yom Kippur. None of us can read. None of us can do anything. And he agreed. But they told him on one condition, that Ne'ilah belongs to us. One of us is going to do Ne'ilah. You can do everything else, but Ne'ilah, one of us is going to do. So he goes throughout Yom Kippur, and he gets to Ne'ilah, and he sits down in the back, and he lets one of the guys. He sees one of these guys comes over to the Amud, takes off his jacket, takes off his shirt, takes off all his clothing, all the top clothing, just remains completely naked from the waist up. And on his back, there's hundreds of marks, of scars, of lashes. And he says to God, God, look, I've taken all these lashes, just to make sure that I'm never going to go against you. So we see these so-called cantonists, they didn't put on tefillin, they didn't daven, they didn't know how to daven. But the things that they did for the Jewish people were unbelievable. They were able to take upon themselves Mesiras Nefesh, really were willing to die for God more than any other person that we know. הרי זה שוקל ומכריע את כל שאר העניינים שאינם מקיימים. So the Mittler Rebbe says, the fact that they keep one commandment, whichever commandment, it's up to them. It says, that outweighs all the commandment that all the rest of the people are doing. It says, in other words, the Jewish community is looking at them, look at these guys, they're not even religious. And I'm telling you that one commandment that they do keep, they keep it with more life, and it's worth all the other commandments put together. Right? That's pretty much what the discourse of the Mittler Rebbe says. And then the Rebbe is going to take this concept and he's going to go deeper with this concept. And he says, ועניין זה הוא תירוץ גם בנוגע לתינוק שנשבע לבין עובדי כוכבי ומזלות. This, he says, we can also take it for people who are not religious today. There's many people over here in America specifically, who are not religious. And sometimes the religious people go up to them and they says, okay, this is not Russia. You know what you're supposed to do. You know you're supposed to perform Torah and mitzvahs. It says, why are you not performing Torah and mitzvahs? So they tell him, we don't believe it. Or we don't want to, or whatever it is. So the question is, how much are these people required to perform Torah and mitzvahs? So there's a concept that the Rambam brings, it's called Tinok Shenishba. It says, what happens if the non-Jews kidnap a baby, and the baby grows with them for, let's say, 20 years. And after 20 years, becomes an adult, he decided he wants to go back, or he knows that he's Jewish. You reveal to him that he's Jewish when he's 25 years old. And after you reveal it to him to Jews, you tell him, you need to keep, put on tefillin, you need to keep Shabbos, you need to do this, you need to do this. And he says, I don't believe it. I don't want to do it. It says, is he required to do it? So the Rambam says, he's not. He's not required. You cannot punish him for not doing it. Why? Because it's not his fault that he doesn't believe you. Explain to him better until he believes you. Says, what do you want from him? Why should he know? He was kidnapped. He doesn't know. So it's true you told him he's Jewish. So what if I'm Jewish? Who says if I'm Jewish I'm supposed to do it? Unless you explain it to him, so that you can't punish him. There's no such thing as punishing somebody who's just been captured amongst the nations. That's what the Rambam says. So the question can be asked, כיוון שתינוק שנשבע אינו מקיים תורה ומצוות, it can be that such a person that is captured amongst the nations, we're at the bottom of page 5, is not performing any Torah, not learning any Torah, not doing any mitzvahs. And we say we cannot punish him. הרי ירידתו לעולם הזה היא לכאורה ללא תכלית. So some people might think, so why did he come down to this world? To live like a non-Jew his entire life? I don't understand. He's a Jew. He's supposed to live like a Jew. There's no reason for him to come down to the world and not live like a Jew. Why did he come down into this world? ואם כן, למה ירדה נשמתו לעולם הזה? So how come his soul came down into this world? Page number 6. בנוגע ליהודי סתם, when we talk, the question is asked about a regular Jew, that talking about somebody religious who decided he doesn't want to become religious anymore, הרי אפילו אם אינו מקיים תורה ומצוות כראוי, if a religious person decided to go off the way and he's not doing Torah and mitzvahs, אין מקום לשאול למה ירדה נשמתו לעולם. You cannot ask why did his soul came down. His soul came down to do Torah and mitzvahs. He got free choice and he chose not to do it. I understand why his soul came down. But that guy's soul that we discussed before, he has no choice. כי מה שאינו מקיים תורה ומצוות, the regular guy, the regular religious guy that went off the way, הרי זה מפני שיש לו בחירה. He went off the way because he has free choice. וכך הוא עושה בחירתו, and he does it in his free choice. אבל כוונת ירידת נשמתו לעולם היא כדי שאכן יקיים תורה ומצוות. But why did God bring him down to this world? So he can do Torah and mitzvahs. The question is, why did God bring down to this world a person who was captured among the nations, and even though he doesn't believe he needs to do it, why did he come to this? It's not his free choice. It looks like God away took his free choice. He doesn't have any choice. He doesn't believe you. Why should he believe you? מה שאין כן תינוק שנשבע לבין עובדי כוכבים הזולות, but a child that was captured amongst the other nations, ואינו יודע מאומה, he doesn't know anything, הרי אי אפשר לדרוש ממנו לקיים תורה ומצוות. We cannot demand that he performs Torah and mitzvahs. How can we demand? He doesn't believe you. Unless you explain it to him, he will not do that. And even if you explain to him, he still doesn't believe you. ואם כן, אינו מובן, למה ירדה נשמתו לעולם? So therefore, we don't know why his soul came down into this world. So the answer is, במשך הזמן, so he says, it doesn't matter who this person is. If he's a Jew, בוודאי יזמינו לו מלמעלה לכל הפחות עניין אחד שיוודע לעולותיו, ותהיה לו היכולת לקיימו. It says, God is going to make sure that he's going to know about one commandment, at least one commandment, and that one commandment he is going to put his life on. וכיוון שכל ימיו לא ידע אודות שום מצווה, and since his entire life he wasn't aware that he's required to do any commandments by God, וגם מצווה זו, and also this particular commandment that he was not introduced to, יעשנה מתוך מסירות נפש. He's going to do that commandment out of what? Out of true mesirut nefesh. He will be willing to die for that commandment. Just like those kids. There's another story that I have to tell you the other story also. The other story with the cantonist, the way it ended, this whole situation with the cantonist was, it's a terrible story, but that's the way it ended. There was a young boy. He was captured when he was like 10 or 11. And he was the son of the rabbi. He was the son of the rabbi, and he was captured. So he always felt responsible for the kids that were captured with him, that were going with him. He was the leader. He encouraged them. He did them. And the Russian general realized that they're never going to convert. Why? Because they all look up to the son of the rabbi. And that son of the rabbi is... he's telling them not to convert, not to do all these things. No. Just yeah. So he made it, the Russian general made it his project to make sure that he's going to be the one that converts. This boy. So he hit him, he tortured him, he didn't feed him, all kind of things. But no matter what he did, the young boy refused. He says, I'm not going to be an example for all the other ones to accept Jesus. So then he says, okay, you have no choice. They took them all to the river, and he took the young boy. He says, now we're going to baptize you, whether you like it or not. So he took the boy, and he took him into the water. So he took him into the water. And this is, imagine, you're talking about probably at the time he was 12, 11 years old. He says he breathed in water because he wanted to die, just so that he's not going to come up as a Christian. That's right. So he breathed in water, but they took him out. He spit out the water, and they told him, "That's it. You're going to do it. Now you're a Christian." So he screamed, "None of us are Christians. We're not Christian. We're never going to accept it." And he threatened him afterwards that if he's not going to go and do his things, he's going to punish him more severely and also the other kids more severely. And that was too much for him. So he told him, "You know what? You have 3 days or not, I'm going to kill all you guys and them unless you do this." So he told him, "Let me think about it for 3 days." So after the 3rd days, they had a whole ceremony. They brought everybody together, the entire groups of kids. They brought this young kid over. There was an army of ceremony, and there was an announcement that he's going to convert, and then all the other ones are going to convert after him. So he came over, and it looks like they asked him, "You're going to convert?" He didn't answer. He went over to the table. There was a table over there, and there was an axe, a knife over there, and he took his hand, he put it on the table like this. He took these fingers like this. He did exactly what I did. He took the axe and he chopped off all 3 fingers. And he told the guy, "This is 1 finger I'm chopping off for actually thinking about, 1 finger per day, for even thinking about converting. I'm not going to convert. But the fact that I thought about it, I'm punishing myself now. I'm punishing myself." So, in actual fact, he didn't take off this finger. So he says why he didn't take off this finger. Why?
So he can give them the finger.
No.
It's fine.
So he can put on tefillin. He says the reason why I didn't take this tefillin, because I'm 12 years old and I never put on tefillin. But one day I'm going to put on tefillin. That's why I left this finger. So this is to show you the power of one mitzvah. It's possible that this kid is never going to do any other mitzvah. But that power, this is what this neshama came down into this world. Kevan שיהיה לו קשה. And by the way, after this happened, the general told the Tsar, because of this kid, we are not going to be able to convert the Jews, and he repealed the decree of taking off the kids because of that kid. He says, it looked to him, no matter what we do to them, they don't convert, even those Jews. And that's why the decree was repealed, because of that boy. 12-year-old kid, not even 13. Look at the power. הרי בוודאי יעשה את המצווה מתוך חיות ביותר. So said, these people are going to do the commandment, even though they might not be aware, know anything, with life. ועניין זה הוא יקר ביותר למעלה. And God loves this. One of the most things that he likes, this passion, it is dear by God. שכדאי להוריד נשמה לעולם הזה למשך כמה וכמה שנים, God decided that it is befitting to bring down a neshama down into this world, מצד היוקר באותו מצווה, because he wants that one commandment, one single commandment, שיקיים בחיות ומסירות נפש. That person is going to do that one single commandment with such life force. Page number 7. Then the Rebbe takes it, that's a very nice story that has to do with other people. But we're going to take this story that has to do with us. What is it to do with people like us? We're not here and we're not there. עניין זה נוגע לא רק לתינוק שנשבע, אלא נוגע גם לכל אחד ואחד מישראל. The Rebbe says, this is not only talking about a child that got kidnapped, it discusses each and every one of us. כיוון שאין צדיק בארץ אשר יעשה טוב ולא יחדל. None of us are righteous. We are all sinners. אפילו לפירוש ברך זה שיחטא ובלשון חיסרון, ובפרט שצריך לגדול מבני ישראל הפירוש שכובשותו. הרי כל אחד ואחד הוא מבחינת תינוק שנשבע. So he says, in actual fact, each and every one of us, we'd like to think, hey, we're religious. This one is more religious, this one is little religious. But no matter which level you are, or we are on a level of a תינוק שנשבע. a child that was caught amongst the nations. And what's the proof? There's many times throughout the day that we act like the nations around us and we don't do the right things. It doesn't matter if you're the biggest rabbi in the world, yeah, or whatever you are, you spend some of the day looking in the internet in the politics of America, Biden Trump or Kamala Trump, or you're talking about the politics in Israel, Bibi or not Bibi, yeah, instead of doing something productive with your life. If you're a politician, maybe you should look at politics. But none of us are politicians. Trust me, none of the rabbis are politicians. None of the rabbis are going to help the world by the fact that they know what Bibi said or Bibi did not say. So the fact that, all these big famous rabbis spend their time, looking the internet about all these things instead of actually going out of the world and changing the world, why is it that? Because they're a person who got captured amongst the nation. Each and every one of us is that person that got captured among the nation. Instead of wasting time, we can use our time more productively. The reason why we don't do it, because we were captured by the culture that we live around. So, כבוד קבוצת מורי וחמי אדמו"ר אומר ששנותיו של יהודי אינם לפי הדרכון. It says we don't count the Jewish life according to the passport. We don't look how many years does the passport say. ייתכן שבדרכון נרשם שהוא בן 70 שנה. It's possible that in the passport it says he's 70 years old. אף לפי שנותיו האמיתיות אין לו תינוק. But if you really count the productive years, the Jewish years in his life, how much of the 70 years did he actually dedicate to Judaism? He might be a 5-year-old. ועל זה אומרים ליהודי שאין לו להתייאש. And over here we tell any kind of Jew, even the Jew that feels that I'm only a 5-year-old, even though I might be 70, it says don't give up, don't despair, just like these people over there. God gave you the power to stand with Mesirus Nefesh, to stand and do the mitzvahs with the same enthusiasm that these young boys do it. הן אמת שלא מדובר כאן אודות שנשבע בגשמיות. It's true, we're not talking about us as people who were captured like this cantonist, אלא אודות מי שהביא את עצמו בבחירתו למעמד מצב של נקשה. We brought ourselves into that condition. We chose ourselves. Let me talk about myself. I chose myself to look about Israeli politics. אבל אף על פי כן, but nevertheless, הרי מה שעבר כבר עבר. But whatever passed is the past. ומה שנוגע הוא רק מכאן לאבן. Now we have to go forward. דהיינו, ההווה והעתיד. What we can do today, what we can do tomorrow. That's what's important. ובנוגע מכאן ולהבא, and when it comes to from here and onwards, עליו לקח מהעבר רק את המעלה והצד הטוב שבו. We can take from the past the good aspect. שמצד היותו במצב של תינוק שנשבע, that since each and every one of us is in a condition of a child that got captured amongst the nation, צריך להתחיל לקחת את עצמו ללימוד התורה וקיום המצוות. הרי זה יהיה בריבוי חיות ביותר. So we have to increase in our learning Torah and our performing mitzvahs, and we have to increase it with the same life, with the same enthusiasm that those cantonists do the mitzvah. Not the way we do the mitzvah. Yeah, we do the mitzvah, we come to shul. Yeah, we do God a favor that we came to shul this morning. And then we put on tefillin, says, God, say thank you that I put on tefillin. That's our attitude. No, we have to do it with the same enthusiasm that these cantonists did Ne'ilah. It says, God, we were willing to do everything for you. We were willing to die for you. That's the way we're supposed to do commandments. הרי זה יהיה בריבוי חיות ביותר, כמו בתינוק שנשבע בגשמיוס. This is what we learn from this cantonist. ונקודת הדברים, and the bottom line is, שבאיזה מצב שרק נמצאים אין להתייאש. It doesn't matter in which position in life we find ourselves in, there should be no despair. We're in the last page. ישנו פתגם על דרך הצחות, על יסוד לשון החז"ל, ייאוש שלא מדעת. It says, when it comes to despair, despair is the opposite of Judaism. שכן אילו היה בו דעת לא המתייאש. A person who has a little bit of knowledge should never have despair. Judaism is about enthusiasm and about life. It's not about despair. Whatever happened in the past, the fact that we messed it up, says, don't cry. You messed up completely. A person could have messed up his life, the worst messing up. Says there's no reason to cry and to get into despair. Judaism is not about the past. Judaism is about the future. So even if a person completely messed up, now is the time to serve God with life and enthusiasm. אלא, what we need to do, צריכים ללמוד תורה, we need to learn Torah, עוד פסוק ועוד פסוק, one verse, another verse, וכן לקיים מצווה אחת, and to perform one more commandment, and another commandment, עד שיגיע לשלמות בכל רמ"ח מצוות, until we're going to reach completion, just like Yaakov reached completion, when he was completely healed by the end of our story. So the whole story with Jacob, actually, represents the fight of the Jewish nation throughout Jewish history amongst our life. By the way, not just Jacob in Jewish history, represents the fight that we have every day with ourselves. We get up in the morning, right? And it doesn't matter where you live. The American culture have captured you, the baby inside of you. We became, I don't know, let's put it this way. I don't know one rabbi, right, that throughout the election, no matter where he was, in Kamala's side or in Trump's side, that instead, him looking at the internet and reading all the articles, is it going to help anything to the Jews around the world? Nothing. And nevertheless, what do? That's what the rabbis do, because they have to. It's like one of the things. This is what it's called, captured amongst the nation. Yeah, it doesn't matter how big you are. Some people, it's football. Some people, it's baseball. Some people, it's politics. Everybody, it's his own thing. You know, but we are captured amongst the nation. We can get to despair. It says, look, I'm captured. It says, no. Just like those people who are captured among the nation have the power to stand with Misirut Nefesh and go against it, also you do. You can get out of it slowly, slowly. One more mitzvah, until we're completely out.
Amen.
Yeah?